For the last several weeks, the body of my car has been sitting on my two-post lift, while the frame has been sitting next to it, just looking super awesome. I wanted to put a seat on top of here and drive it around like this, but I still need to make it go and stop and steer, and all of that stuff attaches to this part. So we're going to put the body back on the frame. Last time we had the top covered with some sheet metal in such a way that made it look like someone had just taped a bunch of sheet metal to a car frame, so I painted it with some underbody coating. Now it looks like somebody spray painted some sheet metal that was taped to a car frame. Whatever, it's going under the car. Nobody's ever going to see it, except you. You and me. Just the two of us. I got the frame out from under the car by sliding it out from the front. The back of the frame is wider than the front of the body, so I had to use these 4x4 posts to move the jack stands out. This is the poor man's two-post lift. It might be easier this time to slide it in from the side. I just need to figure out how to levitate the right side of the body so I can move these jack stands out of the way. This might actually be easier than it sounds. If I had 4x4 posts that were 16 feet long, I could extend them over the frame and slide the frame under. I could probably swap out these boards for longer boards by jacking up the body, but with the price of lumber these days, I could probably just install an actual two-post lift in my garage and have money left over for beer. So here's the plan. I'm going to take the wheels off the frame and drop the frame down onto some dollies I have. These are 1,000-pound capacity dollies, but in my experience, that is wildly optimistic. These are garbage, but it's what I have, so I'll make it work. Once the frame is all roly-poly, I can simply slide my engine hoist under the frame and lift up this post back here. Then I can remove that jack stand. I don't have two engine hoists, so I can't lift up this post, but most of the weight of the body is on the rear stands, so I can get away with only using one jack stand in the front. I'll just jack up the front and move my jack stand from the 4x4 post to the body, and then I'll remove the post and this jack stand. After that, it's simply a matter of sliding the frame under the car. Here's why that didn't work. These rolling dollies are only about 3 inches tall, but my engine hoist legs are about 6 inches tall, so it won't roll under the frame. I could maybe take the wheels off and just muscle it under there, but that seems like a pain in the ass. I went ahead and took the post out from the front. I don't need this jack stand, like I said, it's only using 3 of them, but I left it there just for safety. With this extra post, maybe I could attach it to the existing post to make one long post. I started to do this with a ratchet strap. This seems sketch, but I did some back of the napkin math, and with it wrapped around a few times, it should be fine. Let's give it a quick test lift and see how it feels. This does not fill me with confidence. This is the look of a man who is not filled with confidence. One thing I've learned as an engineer is that if the math works out, but your gut feeling is telling you it's a bad idea, it's probably a bad idea. You're probably forgetting some variable. So I gave up on that and went back to the engine hoist, which has been pretty helpful on a car that doesn't have an engine. How do I get the frame higher? Well, I just sort of started stacking some crap on top of the dollies, a couple of boards, a metal tube. I added a little bit more on the front dolly to even it out. This made the frame too high to make it under the rear 4x4 post. So now I have to wheel the jack over, lift up the post, and move the jack stands higher. This was kind of sketchy, which is seemingly becoming a theme of this part of the project. Like I said, all the weight of the body is on the rear, so I had to be super careful about the placement of the floor jack. Once I had it jacked up, I very carefully lifted each jack stand a couple of notches. And then it was good to go, but really this time. I slid the frame under the body, careful not to jostle the engine hoist. There it is, body on top of frame, but not body on frame because now I have to drop the body down to the frame. When I took the body off the frame, there was no high voltage battery in the way, so I could get the floor jack right under the body, but now there is. So I have to come up with a different way to lower the body. I considered jacking up the frame to the body, bolting it together and letting the whole thing down, but the frame with the battery and drivetrain is really heavy. I could remove the subframe pretty easily, and I did design the battery case so that you could drop the modules out the bottom. You just open up these two access panels, disconnect the cables and the coolant, remove 20 bolts on the sides, 4 in the rear, 4 in the front, then support the frame while lowering 1,000 pounds. You know what, this sounds like a pain in the ass. Also, I just remembered the access panels. I totally forgot to cut a hole in the floor of the body. I need a hole in the floor of the body or I can't get to the access panels to connect the battery to the outhouse. So, time to bust out the jigsaw and the Sawzall. Here's the shitty part about this. Look how clean the top of this battery is. It's so clean, so black. No dust, no dirt, no metal shavings. And it's dirty. Damn it. Okay, back to lowering the body. I thought maybe I could jack up the rear crossbeam of the body, but I wasn't a huge fan of this because it doesn't look super substantial. But maybe. I wheeled over the engine hoist, hooked it up, and sort of slowly lifted the body. It seemed fine. I think the body weighs less than it looks. About this time I remembered the battery made the top of the frame a little bit higher. This makes it interfere with the body. Based on my calculations, I'm going to need to space the body up 3/4 of an inch. I had some hardwood that was about 3/4 of an inch, so I went ahead and cut some squares. I double stacked these, this way I can drop the body down and then measure how much space I have between the body and the frame. Should be 3/4 of an inch plus a little bit. If that's the case, then I can take out one layer of spacers. Also, probably replace the wood spacers with aluminum or something non-organic. With those in place, I lifted the back of the body up just enough so that I could lower the rear jack stands back down to their lowest point. Then I removed the front two jack stands by jacking up one corner of the front, and I lowered the front down onto the body. Very carefully. Very slowly. Then to the back with the engine hoist, and I lowered that down, also carefully, also slowly. Boom! Body on frame. We are done. And by done, I mean not even remotely close to done. There are still things left to do. 3 big things. Well, 3 big things, lots of small things, and a few of those small things will turn out to be big things, but we'll figure that out later. The first is those spacers I was talking about. Looking under the body, it looks like we have enough room to drop down 3/4 of an inch. So I can get rid of one of those spacers. We actually have more room in the rear, and that's good because I might drop the rear more than the front. In fact, I'm hoping I can get away with no spacer in the back and 3/4 of an inch of spacers in the front. I'll have to do some math to figure out the thickness of the spacers in between. Why do I want to do this? Well, the tire looks really low compared to the body. It almost looks like the car is jacked up. This is exacerbated by the fact that I've taken the fender off, but I definitely need to drop the rear. I can lower the suspension a bit, but that's going to drop the frame, putting the battery lower to the ground. So since I only need the clearance in the front between the body and the battery, I'm going to use different size spacers and keep the back of the body as low as possible. You know what? Let's just try this right now. I'm going to jack this up and pull out all the spacers except for a 3/4 inch one at the front, and we can see what it looks like. Definitely better. But I am a little too close for comfort between the frame and the body in the back, so I think I'll do a 1/4 inch spacer in the rear, maybe 3/8. The second thing I need to do is directly connect the middle of the body to the frame. If you remember from last time, I had those 5 bolts that go all the way through the battery case and through a 1-inch steel bar that goes through the top of the middle of the modules. The Jaguar originally had that big X-brace that I cut out. Well, the body bolted to that X-brace in 10 places. I'm going to pick up 6 of those points. 2 of them happen to line up with those outer rails I added in, so I'm just going to drill those and put some rivet nuts in. The other 4 are going to be a little more difficult. I'm going to weld up a piece of steel, probably 1 inch thick, that runs the length of the middle and has 2 bars coming out here and here. Then I can bolt the body to those bars. So I'll have this weird kind of T-shaped thing that's bolted to the body and the frame. The third thing I need to do is make some removable panels that cover up these big ass holes in the floor. This part was a bump in the floor to clear the drive shaft, which I don't have anymore, so I cut that out. I'll weld in a flat panel there, so I'll have a mostly flat floor. You know what? I'm not going to weld it, because there is a giant lithium-ion battery directly below it. I'll use some adhesive. I'll do the same here, covering up what used to be the rear of the drive shaft tunnel. Then I have to make removable panels for here and here. The back one should be easy. I can just put some rivet nuts in the sheet metal and some seal around the edge. This one will be a little more difficult because the sheet metal is so close to the battery and because I have this elevated part here, but I'm going to figure that out later. I'm still up in the air on using rubber bushings between the body and the frame or just hard mounting it. I'm probably going to try to hide a simple roll cage inside, and that should alleviate any flex problems. I don't know. I'll think about it. You know, now would be a good time to check the weight balance. We still have a lot of stuff to put on, but how bad do you think it is, front to rear? 2278, 42.2, 57.8, 50-50? Throw your guess in the comments. First one to get it right wins, let's see, a crack lighter. I can't wait to drive this thing like this. No engine, no fenders, just tons of dirt here, no trunk. I should probably buy a seat, and then I can use that to find a good placement for the brake pedal, and then I can start running brake lines. There's a lot of stuff left to do, and we'll get to it next time. Thanks for watching. It used to be that you had to impress people to get people to watch your show. Now you just have to impress the algorithm. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. All hail the algorithm.